All right, I am live, which is good. Yeah, I finally reached 40,000 subscribers, so I'm going to be doing a giveaway. Kind of looking through the comments here a little bit earlier. I know somebody asked, do you know what I'm giving away? Well, yes, we do. At the end of the show, get this out of the way. At the end of the show, I'm going to be giving away this. It's a nice 2-gallon gate marked cauldron, kettle, cauldron, whatever you want to call it. You can see on the bottom there, it's gate marked, says 8L. Got nice little cow horn ears on it. This is from the late 1800s, probably 1880, 1890, maybe up into the early 1900s, but at any rate, this thing's better than a century old. It doesn't have its little ring on that projection there. It should have a little ring on there that you could hook with a poker if you have it hanging on a crane over a fire. But at any rate, that is going to be the big giveaway item. It's ready to use, been seasoned. Kind of needs a little breaking in, but it's ready to start using it. You can see a little bit of the casting flaws in the bottom there. And that's a side effect of the gate mark. You see that on pretty much anything that's gate marked, whether it's skillets or kettles. It's because the air left the mold from the same opening that they were pouring the iron into. And the iron would cool a little bit along the edges as it filled the mold. And you get these little kind of casting flaws in there, little kind of ripples and wrinkles in the iron. And that's perfectly normal for gate marked, bottom gated cast iron. So at any rate, yeah, it's a nice kettle. I'm sure you'll enjoy having it. Coming up on Halloween, you'll have yourself a nice cauldron for whatever sort of things you get up to around Halloween. But at any rate, I'll give that away at the end of the show. If you win, send me a message at themudbrooker@yahoo.com with a shipping address, and I'll get it sent out. All you have to do to enter the drawing is leave a comment, because I'll use the StreamYard comment picker to pick a winner. If you don't get a hold of me in a week, we'll do another drawing next week and try and give it away to them. Because I have had a few people who won and never got back to me with an address. So we ended up giving it to somebody else. And you don't want that to happen. If you're going to be a winner, get the stuff you won. I'm also going to give away for on the Facebook page, whether you're on my Facebook page or not, as long as you're a member, the monthly $6.99 membership. I'm also going to give away, for those people only, this, which is really cool. That is an old Wagner Ware waffle iron. See the inside there. You're on your own for a base, and one of the kind of drawbacks of these Wagner Ware waffle irons is the hinge doesn't stay together. Like on Griswold and a lot of other types of waffle irons, there's something that'll hook these together built into the hinge. So it makes it a little bit tougher to use this by itself on just a stove burner, where a lot of them you can, and you can flip them over pretty easy. With this, if you squeeze the handles enough to hang on to it, it tends to separate the hinge. But at any rate, that's still a hell of a nice thing. That's a 1910 dated number 8 Wagner Ware waffle iron. So if you're a member of the channel, and there's 15 of you right now, you'll have a chance to win this. And I'll probably do this tomorrow morning when I get home from work. I'll put everybody's names in a hat and draw whether or not you're actually on the Facebook page, which is for members only. I know I had a lot of people that have asked to join the Facebook page, but I try to limit that to channel members only. If you want to join between now and then and have a chance to win this, it's $6.99 a month, and there is should be a join button. Let me double check here. Should be a join button right there below the video. And the only problem is it doesn't really show up all that good on mobile devices, I guess. If you're on your cell phone, it may or may not be there, and I don't know why. Would a nice thick neodymium magnet do the job on that waffle iron? Probably. If you had a base for it, there's a socket that this sits in, and you can just spin and flip it as you need to. But, if you had some little sleeve, like a, anything that would fit over that and hold them together and be able to take the heat, that would work too. But you can find bases for these. Not terribly easy to come by, but they are out there. At any rate, that's what the members will be getting. Everybody who's here tonight on YouTube, whether you're a member or not, or anything like that, you're going to have a chance to win this. No button on your phone. I think I can put a link to that if you really want to join. I'm not sure how I would do it though. Never had to really mess around with it. Let me play with this a bit. I think I gotta go to studio. Let's see here. Scroll down, find that. No, I don't want that. I want that one. Memberships. There should be a link here that I can post. Okay. Copy that. Okay, now if I come back, come on. Oh, wait. There I am. I'm on the wrong thing here. I will post that. There it is. All right. And that link there should let you join the channel even if you don't have a link button. Like I said, it's worthwhile. I've kind of neglected it over the summer, and hopefully I'll be able to get things a little more worthwhile. If you join, you get access 2 or 3 days early to my new videos when I finally make videos again. And you can join a private Facebook page. And like I said, on the Facebook page, we do giveaways of other things like that. And like I said, I'm going to be trying a little bit harder to make it more worthwhile for people to join. Some people have dropped out over the summer, which is understandable because I haven't really done a whole lot of specific members only type things. But at any rate, if you enjoy the show and you want to help feed my addiction to cast iron, feel free to join or do whatever you want to do. During the week, I did find a couple of little items. One of them is this nice little number 3 skillet. Got that for $5. It's unmarked, entirely unmarked. There's no drawing a complete blank. There's not even a mold number or letter number on this, pattern number. And I think it's a Wagner. It certainly looks like a Wagner. It has that kind of style to it. A little smooth bottomed one, but it's a fairly early one. You see that's a hand scribed 3 on the handle. And usually later on they get a regular stamped one, but like I said, that looks to be a fairly early example. Pretty sure it's a Wagner, and it's $5 for a really nice little pan, so I couldn't pass it up. I also found, even though it isn't cast iron, a $6, $5.99, $6 Pyrex coffee pot. I have one like this that's a good bit bigger, and this is a smaller one. Now, I'm not positive that the innards are quite right for it, but they are marked. Let's see if I get the light just right there. Pyrex, so it's definitely for a Pyrex brand coffee pot. But most of the ones like this I've seen have a glass stem and a glass basket to them. But, that could be the actual basket for it. At any rate, I thought that was pretty cool for $6. So I'll add that to my way too many Pyrex coffee pots I have. Let me back up a little bit here and kind of look through the comments. Say hi to some people. Granny Graham, no button. Well, hopefully fix that. I should actually pin that. Let me find it again here. I know I'm in here somewhere. I'll pin that one to the top so you can see it. Come on, where are you? Let's see. No, I don't want to block myself. Start. Let me make sure I'm over here on this side, on the YouTube side. Find myself. Where am I? There I am. There we go. That's pinned up on top now. If you're interested in joining, you don't have to, but it is greatly appreciated. And let me scroll back a little bit here. Scroll. Folks fighting with dreaded Rona. It's no fun to get it. Something you want to kind of avoid if you can. Starting over Homestead and the Purring Cat Lady. Nice to see you. Debbie, Darla Allred. Let's see here. MJ Haas, you're ready for a kettle. Well, hopefully you'll win. But I'm sure whoever does is going to enjoy it thoroughly. Granny Graham. And thank you for congratulating me. Cast Iron Fanatic. Good to see you. Let's see, Debbie. Mike Newby. Hi, Mike. Starting over Homestead. Let's see. Six Drops. Always a pleasure to see you, Six. Let's see. MJ Haas. I mentioned you. Netches River Catfishing. Bookworm. Chris Salverson. R. Hughes. Hello from Detroit. Well, hello from Mudbrook. Let's see. John. Good to see you, John. Kimberly Miller. Katie's Corners. Nice to see you. It's been a while since we've seen you around. It's good to have you back. Milk and Honey Heritage Farms. Jill. Morgan Freedom. Kimberly Miller. Let's see here. Yeah, you can reenact the opening of Macbeth with it. As long as you can find two friends to do it with you, it's a lot more realistic. And yeah, it would be perfect for Halloween. Yeah, the casting flaws in gate mark stuff is pretty neat, because you can tell where it kind of cooled a little bit and it didn't flow quite right. Let's see, argue. Thank you, winter. Lazy days ahead with Jesse and Lisa. Good to see you guys. JD Hannon. Let's see here. Thanks for all the information I provide from Rusty Eisenhart. Well, thank you much. And you're welcome. I do what I can. That's a waffle maker. Yes, that's a waffle iron. That's the giveaway for the channel members. And it is a nice one. Like I said, you're kind of on your own for a base for it or something to keep it held together good so you can flip it on just a burner. Wood cooking a chili with tomato paste for 8 hours totally destroy the seasoning. Yeah, acidic foods for a long time can be rough on cast iron. And when I do slow cooking with something acidic, like a roast with a braising meat and red wine or something like that, I usually use enamel cast iron because it does hold up better. A lot of times if you're making something like a soup or a stew, something that's just water-based, if it's well seasoned, it shouldn't have too much problem with it. But when you start doing acidic foods, yeah, you're usually better off with enamel cast iron if you're going to be cooking it for a long time. If you're just making like spaghetti sauce with meat, and you brown your meat up in your pan, and you dump spaghetti sauce in with it, and then basically just heat it up. That's not a problem either. Just when you're done, scrape out any leftovers, put them away, and wash your pan off. So Noodle, good to see you. Sandra House, catching up here a little bit. And of course, that dog has to start. Bought a large block logo, slant logo number 9, and a small logo 10. 2 common Wagners for $40 at a Goodwill. That's a real good deal. The large slant logos, especially number 9, go for quite a bit nowadays. And even the small logo Griswolds go for a pretty good price, especially once you start getting number 10 and bigger. So $40 for a lot of them is a hell of a good deal. Let's see. I have a little one like that, but super rusty. Yeah, rust, the best way to do it is with an electrolysis tank. But if you don't want to bother setting up something like that, just mix up a 50-50 water and white vinegar solution in a container big enough to hold the pan, enough to cover the pan, and just soak it in there for a few hours. Scrub it off, soak it again until it comes clean. The vinegar will take the rust off really good. And that's pretty much the best thing if you have just a few pans to do is using a vinegar bath with it. Let's see, another video. Coffee is the most delicious of all beverages. Yes, it is, especially if you add a little whiskey to it. You've seen both in that coffee pot, glass and metal. Yeah, the bigger one that I have, that same style with that same kind of handle on it, has glass innards. So, but I have seen some Pyrex coffee pots that have the metal ones like that. So it seems to fit in there, right? So it might be the actual one for it, but it's kind of hard to say. I have one of my Pyrex, and you got the innards. Works great. Yeah, they make really great coffee. They seem to make the best coffee of pretty much anything I've tried. That took a lot longer, 40 grams. I gotta let that dog in here a second. Hopefully I get caught up. First, Brenda N. Nice to see you. Rarely see you live. Well, it's nice to catch me. I usually aim for Tuesday nights at 6:30. Try and keep a fairly consistent schedule. I'm not going to have a show next week because I'll be working next week. So, and I'll know after that. I should be able to have a stream the following week, but not next week. Don't drink coffee, but that makes some nice tea. Yeah, and there are, actually, I think I have one sitting here fairly close. Let me slide back a little bit. They make Pyrex teapots like that. You can make your tea in that, same sort of a deal. But they make those nice little Pyrex teapots. So if you find one of them are pretty cool too. And they usually go for a good bit less than the coffee pots, especially ones that have the innards in them. But once in a while, you can find Pyrex coffee pots like that in secondhand stores. Antique shops have them, but usually they want $40, $50 a piece for one. If you get a lot cheaper, I always do. How did the Mudbrooker get the moniker of the Mudbrooker? That's because I live in Mudbrook. That's what the area I live in is known as to the natives around here. So living in Mudbrook, I am a Mudbrooker. It's always 3:40 in my house. Yeah, that clock hanging back there. One of these days I might actually get that thing working again. It's just a basic clock. It's not a antique or anything, but it's kind of a neat clock. I've never had the heart to really get rid of it, even though it quit working years ago. And it's not just a battery. It's got quartz movement in it. I'll have to get some new movement for it. Mary Williams from Missouri, good to see you. What's the lifespan for an enameled pot? 510 years? Sounds about right. I think it shouldn't hold up that long. The enamel does tend to craze after a while. You see that especially on skillets where they get heated a lot hotter, and sometimes you'll see the enamel is starting to get cracked and flaking a bit. And usually, once you start shedding enamel like that, it's not really the greatest idea to use them because you can end up with flakes of glass in your food, and it's not a good thing. But as long as the enamel's intact, you can keep on using them forever. Druid Lover, hi, Druid. Good to see you. I picked up a good score from garage sales. Griswold number 11 nickel for $20 and a number 8 Wapak Indian head. Wow, for 10. So built up you couldn't see it, but the handle's easy to spot. Yeah, I mean, they have a pretty distinctive handle on them, so even if there's a ton of buildup to where you can't see the logo on it, you can tell what it is. There are fake Indian heads out there, but most of them have the wrong handle style on them. They have just kind of a regular handle, that looks like that. Where if you've ever seen the Indian head handle, you know right away it isn't. That and the logo doesn't look quite right. It's not nearly as sharp and clear, and the face looks kind of wonky on them. So you can usually spot them, but I guess there are some better fakes out there that have the right handle, but the casting still isn't quite up to par. So if you're looking at an Indian head and they want the actual price of what they're worth for it, look at it pretty close and make sure it looks right, because you don't want to get screwed on getting a fake one. Whiskey Coffee, who'd have thunk it? Yeah, I mean, some inventive feller figured that one out, and I'm forever grateful that he did. You like that Pyrex teapot? Yeah, they're nice little things. I use them a lot for making broth and things like that with my portable soup, because some of the bigger chunks of that portable soup take a while to dissolve. So I can just put it in there and let it, simmer, not quite simmer, and it'll works really good for that. Pretty teapot, yeah. I like the Pyrex stuff. I mean, pretty much everything I own for cookware is either cast iron or glass. What, there's a clock back there? Yeah, you can see it right over the shoulder right there. Made chili yesterday in a chicken fryer. Took some of the seasoning off. Only had it on the stove for about an hour, but I added a new layer after I cleaned up. Yeah, they usually, it's not going to strip it down to bare metal usually. And just in your normal cleaning, when you dry it on the stove and re-oil it, that's usually plenty enough to reinvigorate it. Picked up a number 3 Griswold skillet for $5. That's a good price for those too. Yeah, I mean the large block number 3s, they usually go for $30 or more. Yeah, usually if you get little splotches where it kind of strips the seasoning a little bit, usually it's not a big deal. Just clean it like you normally would and just keep using it, and it'll even out again. And it won't really strip it to the point where it's lifting the carbonized stuff off. So it's still pretty well sealed. It's just a matter of freshening it up a little bit, and you don't have to redo it in the oven usually. Just clean it up, oil it, and start using it again. Anyway, there it is. Got stuff all around. Cooking Creole smothered chicken in your Magnolite roaster while watching. Well, that sounds good. Went down wrong. Well, the dog seemed to have settled down for the time being. But let's see. Kind of stuck here. I'm up a bit early. I'm working midnight, so I should still be asleep, but I got up early just for this. Okay. Right, twice a day. At least that. Do you measure lids by the inside lip or the outside edge? Generally, the outside of the inside lip. Let's see, do I have a lid handy here? Yeah. There we go. That Mastiff is shedding. Every day I have to vacuum up and drift the dog hair, even though I've curry combed them out. Usually you'd want to measure from the, let's turn right from the outside lip to the other side of the outside lip, and then measure the inside of the skillet and make sure this is a little bit smaller. And when you see things listed for sale on eBay or, wherever you find them listed online, it can be a pain because you're not sure how the other person measured them, whether they measured the, overall outside. But yeah, what fits in the skillet is the outside of this inner lip. So you have to have that a little bit smaller than the inside of the skillet you want it to fit on. But whoops, for most usage, just for covering a pan on the stove or something like that, you don't really need it to fit exactly perfect. I mean, if it hangs over the sides a bit, it might drip a little condensation on your stove. That's no big deal. And sometimes a round lid that doesn't have ears on it will sit down inside the pan a little bit, as long as it's not right down on the bottom with what you're trying to cook. That'll work too. So, the only thing you really need something that fits perfectly on is like a Dutch oven or a chicken fryer. You want to have the right lid for that. But just for most use, for covering something on the stove, it's not a big deal if it doesn't fit quite perfectly. Let's see here. Catch back up with the comments. Do you recommend a trivet to keep a roast off the cast? Yeah, they are kind of nice. And they if you get it up off the bottom a little bit, it'll roast, rather than boiling the bottom part of it in its own juices, which is kind of nice, but, and it keeps things moist and tender. But if you keep it up off the bottom, it'll brown around the outside better, and you get more of a roasted thing rather than something that's kind of half boiled. Amp 88, Jake, what's up? Well, what's up is I'm giving away a kettle. I'll show you the kettle again. At the end of the show, I'm going to have a drawing to win this fabulous number 8 gate marked kettle. Late 1800s, maybe a little after 1900, but certainly an old one. And it's a nice thing to have right before Halloween. I have a 30-gallon cauldron that was given to us by a family member. Got it at an auction 60 years ago. I used to have one, and I gave it to my son, and he better still have it. Might have to come and take it back from him one of these days. But it's a big hog scalding pot, about 3 foot across. And it was in a fairly decent shape. It was rusty, but it didn't, it wasn't too bad. No cracks or holes are in it. Found a crazy mystery skillet. It has an 8 on top of the handle. Normal, but typewriter size 9 on the bottom and on the back side of the handle. The small number 9 is probably a pattern number. You see that, and trying to think of what brands I've seen that sort of thing on. You do see them now and then, but the unmarked Wagner's is usually a letter, small typewriter size letter on the back of the handle. Number 9, I'm not exactly sure who did that, but yeah, that's probably a pattern number. Mango, nice to see you squeaky little thing, you. Thoughts on prices for a number 7 Erie second series skillet? They usually go fairly high, especially if you can definitely identify it as a second series, and if the seller knows what it is. something like that, yeah, I see quite a bit of Erie, where they uh, don't attribute it to any particular series. For number 7, anywhere from 100 to 150 is a pretty common price on them. So, if you can get it for less than that, you're doing pretty good. I wouldn't go a whole lot past 175 at the most, but they do go for pretty strong prices. And the 7 is a little bit of a odd size. It's not really rare, but it is less common than a number 8. So, yeah, I mean, you're probably looking anywhere from 100 to 175 in that range somewhere. Very cool. Wondering how you keep up with seasoning. How do you season something that weighs 80 pounds? Uh, yeah, it's not easy to do something like that. Really, the only way, with a big cauldron like that, if you want to season it properly, really the only way you can do that is outside over a fire. Build a low fire. You don't need it really hot. But yeah, I mean, season it like pretty much like you would a normal type of a skillet, with the same materials, lard or Crisco or something like that. But you'll need a lot more of it, and you need something where you can kind of heat it fairly evenly all the way around and all the way through. So it's going to be fairly tough, and probably the best way to do it would be over a small, slow, open fire. If you had something where you could enclose the sides a little bit so you can heat the sides of it too, and just kind of play it by ear. It's going to take a little bit of trial and error and messing around with it, try and get it right, but it can be done. What do you mean I'm muted? I shouldn't be. Everything here says I'm good on this end. How many quarts do you think that is? The kettle I'm giving away, that should be 8 quarts, more or less. It's about a 2-gallon kettle. You were gifted a 1910 treadle Singer sewing machine. Those come in handy. I mean, you got no power need to sew something. They are pretty slick. And some of the older ones, you can actually sew a lot heavier materials than you can with most electric sewing machines. You can really put some torque to them, and sewing heavy denim or leather or something like that. It's a pattern number. Yeah, the 9 on the bottom of the handle, most likely. Let's see. The package shipped yesterday. You might get it Friday. Cool. Yeah, Raymond sent me a top for that Hammered Lodge uh, combo cooker that I got. Thanks for answering your question. Well, you're welcome. I do what I can. Prices are it's kind of hard sometimes to really give a good estimate for prices because it varies a lot from place to place, and condition makes a difference too. But you can usually get a fairly decent range figured out for you can see what things are selling for on auction sites, and whenever I'm out and around, you can get some idea at least. It's kind of tough to nail down. Yeah, it's worth 134.95. Yeah, that's a little bit more difficult. Love cast iron. Help you appreciate even more what I have and enjoy the hunt for more. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Not muted? Well, I hope not. Like I said, everything's good on my end. So, Griswold's. What do the different letters mean under the style numbers? I've seen A, C, and K. Uh, the catalog numbers are just that, a number, 710, 705, whatever, corresponds to what size and what style it is. I don't have a whole lot of them memorized, but like a 786 would be a number 8 chicken fryer. The A's, C's, and K's you see after the numbers or under them is usually a pattern letter or a pattern number, depending on the company. Usually it's a letter. And that indicates they use that to keep track of what pattern they used to make the mold to make the pan. Because if they start having, problems with a particular pattern where it's not, things just aren't coming out right, they know that, that pan was made with that pattern, and they can pull that pattern out and work on it or throw it away and use a different one. So you can, keep track in the production process of what's going on. I had a friend that had a big outdoor cauldron, used a whole chickens. He used a whole chickens to season the inside every spring. Yeah, chicken fat would probably work pretty good. Get them warm and rub it around the inside. So yeah, and there are a few people that try to collect the entire series of the patterns. A number whatever C and C, B, A, K. They didn't necessarily use all the letters, and they didn't necessarily use them all in order at the same time. But there are people that'll try to get number 8, like a Wagner or 1058C and a 1058B. Try and do that. But that's kind of a niche thing, and it doesn't really, it doesn't affect the value between one letter and another. So it's just a way of the manufacturers keeping track of what's going on. Chicken's good to know. Yeah, I think that would work, especially if you had a nice fatty chicken. Rub the chicken fat around the inside of it. Mango Kool-Aid, yeah, that's mango Kool-Aid. Recently bought a round bale griddle. The only marking is a number 14 on the back. Any ideas on the maker? It can be kind of tough. Some of them had just a number on them. It could be an older Lodge or an older BSR, because they both just had the size number on the back. So beyond that, it's hard to tell. It could be an entirely unknown maker. Does it have any reinforcing ribs on the back? Sometimes you can get an idea who made it by the pattern of the reinforcing ribs, if they have them. A lot of the round griddles didn't, though, because they found out they were trying to make them a little more resistant to warping. And Griswold went through this, and you see a lot of Griswolds from the early 1800s or early 1900s, where they have different patterns of reinforcing ribs on the back, and you can see where they ground them off, tried something different, a lot of different kind of ghost marks from experimenting around with this. And they found that really the only way you can prevent the warping is to make the whole thing a bit thicker, because the ribs tended to heat up more than the rest of it, or they would heat up first, and it actually made things worse trying to reinforce it. So they finally figured out just make them heavier, and that avoids a lot of the warping. But with just a 14 on the back, yeah, I would guess maybe a Lodge or BSR, without really seeing it, but it could be somebody else too. It's really hard to tell. Kool-Aid is from Hastings, Nebraska, not far from here. Really? Didn't know that's where they made it. Sorry, I think you missed my chat looking for a good video on how to clean a cast aluminum. Do I have one? I've been working on this damn thing for about 3 weeks now for an aluminum cleaning video, how to restore cast aluminum. And yes, I will have it shortly. I was hoping to get it edited and put together over the weekend, but that didn't quite work out. So hopefully, I'll be able to get it up by this weekend, get it done and finally posted. So be patient and indulge my slowness a little bit. And I should have one on cleaning aluminum pretty soon. Let's see. Does it have a heat ring? Maybe a mold break? Yeah, it's kind of tough to say. Let's see. You have a number 10 Peak Aware smiley face griddle in the lye tank. Can't wait to see how it turns out. Yeah, they're pretty nice. I mean, they're the big griddles especially go for a lot of money. I mean, you can find number 9 and 10 griddles fairly common, especially the ones with a handle, a skillet handle on them. And those are usually fairly inexpensive depending on the brand. The Griswolds, of course, sell for a lot more. But finding the big, number 12, number 14, 16 even, bale griddles, then you start looking at quite a bit of money because they're real popular. A lot of people use it for pizza pans, and they work great for that. You use them like a pizza stone, and they really make a nice crust on the pizza. In fact, I'll have to probably try that in the wood stove once I get to cooking on the wood stove again. Where can you buy a good cast iron skillet? It's not the stuff they sell in the store now. They're out there. I mean, most of your vintage skillets, of course, you're not going to find brand new in a store. So you have to go to places like antique shops, often have them. Secondhand stores you can find is a pretty good source, but you have to kind of know what you're looking for a bit, because a lot of cast iron that gets donated to a Goodwill is basically junk that you can't use. But a lot of times people clean out grandma's house and just donate all the kitchenware to a Goodwill or a secondhand shop, that sort of thing. You can find them in secondhand shops. You can find them online, eBay. Goodwill has an auction site, shopgoodwill.com, where they have quite a bit of cast iron stuff. And when you buy things online, though, you have to remember you're going to have to pay shipping for it. And cast iron is usually fairly big, fairly heavy. So shipping usually runs anywhere from 15 to, $30, depending on how big it is, how heavy. Because shipping is kind of odd. They go a little bit more by the volume of something than they do necessarily the weight. And some of it, I think, depends on the routes that they use, because it costs as much for me to have something shipped from, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And that's a little over 100 miles. It'll cost me as much or more than it will to have something shipped from the East Coast a lot of times. So, but whatever price you pay online, you have to remember to include shipping. And a lot of times it can work out better if you just buy it at an antique shop, even though it costs, $20 more than what you would have paid for the same thing online. But if you have to pay $30 shipping for it, you're losing money. So, you got to do a little bit of figuring on that. But keep your eyes out. Thrift sales, garage sales, that sort of thing is a good place. Flea markets, you can often find a lot of the vintage cast iron. A lot of vintage cast iron is fairly inexpensive too. A lot of the older Lodge and BSR things, really good pans, and they go for a lot less price than a comparable size Griswold or Wagner ware will. So it's just a matter of shopping around and looking for it, and you can find quite a bit. Pretty much anything you need to get. Yeah, R. Hughes mentioned Stargazer. There are new, brand new brands out there of cast iron that are real nice and smooth. Some of them are really light, some of them are a bit heavier. They do tend to be fairly expensive though, anywhere from $100 to $200 a piece, depending on the company and the size and all that sort of thing. But I see a lot of good reviews for them. I don't have any of the new, I don't know, boutique iron, I guess you would call it. But there's a Stargazer, Field Company, Finex, Butter Pat. There's quite a few other ones. It's getting to be kind of a little bit of a growing industry, which is nice to see. So, but like I said, you're going to pay a bit more for that. So, it's just a matter of going out and finding it, really. I got a Wagner 10-inch for $5 at Goodyear. Senior Day, 25% off. Yeah, it's always nice to get things at a discount just because you're getting old and decrepit. I got an unmarked Wagner from the 60s at a flea market for $4. Pan has some surface rust, but not bad. Are these 60s Wagner pans good? Uh, Most of them are fairly good. Towards the end of the 60s, especially ones you see that are marked GHC, General Housewares Company, on the back. It'll have the Wagnerware logo up on top, then across the middle, it'll have another logo, GHC. Once they started that, they really started dropping off in quality. They got a lot rougher, a lot clunkier, and those aren't terribly good. But a lot of the earlier 60s stuff is. So it's, kind of depends. I mean, you can usually tell just by looking, how good it is. Recently asked a Goodwill employee if he ever sees cast iron. Nope, bummed. Yeah, some places you don't see it, and even around here, places where you do see it, you're not going to find it every time you go and look. I usually get to town once a week or so, and I'll kind of make the rounds, around the secondhand stores and see what they got. Once in a while, you'll find something really nice. Sometimes you'll find they have cast iron, but it's nothing you're interested in, and sometimes there just ain't nothing there at all. It's kind of a long hunt sometimes. Mine's an unmarked Wagner that has "Made in USA" on it. Usually they're pretty good. I mean, if the inside is machined nice and smooth, it's a good one. Like I said, once you start getting the General Housewares Corporation marked ones, those are usually pretty rough and nasty. But yours sounds like it should be a pretty good one. Let's see here. Father found a gate marked 2-quart pot from Boston. He's going crazy about it. Yeah, they're nice. I mean, some of them do have makers marks, different company names on them, things like that. But most of your gate mark stuff doesn't. I mean, it'll have a size number, maybe a letter, that was somebody's initial. Could have been a mold mark, could have been a maker's mark, because a lot of the foundries paid piecework, and you would put your initial or your mark on it so that you would get paid for your day's work. This will be your first cast iron pan. You're ready to quit Teflon? Well, good for you. You'll like it. I mean, there's a little bit of a learning curve, learning how to cook with cast iron, the way it heats up, the way it cooks. But it doesn't take long to get used to it, because it heats up a lot different than most of your aluminum or steel pans will. But it doesn't take long. Some people never really get the hang of it, and they just don't like cast iron, but most people do. I mean, if you know how to basically cook and you keep an eye on things, especially the first few times till you get the hang of it, it's really not. It's not a hard transition to make. It's just like getting a new stove. Learning how your stove reacts and where to set it for that. Warm it up good before you start. Especially bigger pans. Heat them up on like a medium-low heat. Let them get good and hot before you start cooking with it. And that's really the only thing you need to worry about too much. Somebody found a number 2. Oh, a number 2 Wagner at the Goodwill for $4. Yeah, number 2 anything is really scarce. I mean, if you found one for $4, you really did good, because number 2 is really go for big money, especially one that has brand marks on it. So if you can find any of them, you're way ahead of the game. I don't have any number 2s. I've seen a few, but couldn't pay that much for them. I've seen them go for anywhere from $200 to $300 a lot of times. 50s and 60s unmarked Wagner is great. If you can find some that doesn't wobble, even better. Yeah, they did tend to have a little bit of a rock and wobble to them a lot of times, even right from the factory. But a little bit of wobble to them or a little spin usually doesn't matter for cooking purposes. You just have to add a little bit extra oil to make up for that dip in the bottom of the pan. The only time you run into any sort of a problem with them, if it has a warp to it, is if you have a flat glass top stove. But even then, if it ain't too bad, it usually works pretty good. I've never seen one before. Thought you should buy it. Well, yeah, you should definitely buy a number 2 if you see them, because you don't see them very often. Never seen number 2 or number 7. Number 7s you should be able to find. I mean, they're out there. It's less common. 6s and 7s are a little bit of kind of an in between size that they weren't nearly as common. But you see quite a few 7s around, so you should be able to find a 7 eventually. Yeah, number 2s and number 4s are probably are the hardest sizes to find. And sometimes they didn't even make a number 2 or a number 4 of a particular series. But yeah, a little shopping around, you should be able to find a number 7 fairly easy. I mean, they're definitely out there. They're way, way more common than number 2s and number 4s are. But anyway, we got about 10 minutes left in the show. So we'll go about another 5 minutes or so, and we'll do the drawing right before we go. And if you win, send me an email at themudbrooker@yahoo.com, and we will get a shipping address all figured out and get it shipped out as soon as I can. And like I said, I'll probably do the drawing in the morning on Facebook for the waffle iron for the members. Even if there are some members I have that aren't on the Facebook page. Even if you're not on the Facebook page, if you are a member, you can win. I'll put your name in regardless. And the same thing, I'll post the winner on the Facebook page, and hopefully you have a YouTube channel or some way I can get a hold of you and let you know that you won. So there's that. But anyway, throwing out my Teflon was a good feeling. Don't want to buy any new ones. What size is a number 2? It's smaller than a number 3, surprisingly enough, being a number 2. Number 3s are usually about 6.5 inches, and a number 2 is more like 5 inches or so across. They're noticeably smaller than a number 3 is. Like this one here is a number 3. It's just a dinky little pan. You can see it's about that big. And a number 2 would be, maybe 3/4 of an inch or an inch smaller than this yet. Kind of depends on what what maker, how big they made their things, because the numbering system on cast iron isn't really consistent, and it's kind of a holdover from wood burning stoves, where they would go by the size of the eye that this was meant to fit on, the lid on the stove. If you took the lid off, this would fit a number 3 lid. Well, to make things even worse, the sizes of the eyes weren't a standard size system either. So that's why you see a number 8 skillet is usually like 10.5 inches across. Why they wouldn't make that number 10, who knows, but it's number 8. Anyway, like I said, number 2 is, a fair bit, it's noticeably smaller than a number 3, around 5 inches, 5.5 maybe. So there's no real set size that corresponds with the size numbers, but generally a number 3 is like 6.5 in there somewhere. The Goodwill auction is great. Yeah, they have a surprisingly wide variety of things that come in there. Sometimes you find some fairly rare stuff that comes in, and a lot of times it'll go for a pretty good price too. But you can get good deals. It's like any auction site. Sometimes you get lucky and you get something for a real good price, and sometimes things go for a lot more than they're worth too. That's just kind of the hazard of any auction. Always go to the flea market on the weekends. Keep your eye out for cast iron. What's a good price to pay for Wagner and Griswold pans? A lot of it depends on the size. Things bigger than a number 8 tend to get a lot more expensive a lot more quickly, because there's a lot of demand for larger size pans, especially the vintage ones, for just kind of a general generic price for like a number 8, a Wagner ware, usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 40 bucks, depending. The newer ones, the ones marked GHC, aren't worth as much. They're not as good pans. The Wagner 1891s, a lot of people try to overprice them because they think they're actually from 1891, and they're not. They were made in the 1990s as a 100th anniversary commemorative. Those should sell for around 20 bucks. Most of your stylized logo, things like that, go for about 30. Like I said, this is kind of a generic price. Griswolds tend to go 40, 50, sometimes 60, kind of depending on the size and the condition, what sort of shape they're in. The large logos sell for a bit more than the small ones, but the small logo pans have kind of caught up. So, just as a general generic price, usually 30 to 40 for a Wagner ware and 50 to 60 for a Griswold, all things being equal between them. I would really love to win that kettle, keeping this thing. There we go. The comment skipped ahead on me. Where was I? I would really love to win that kettle. Well, good luck. Hopefully you will. Let's see. Passed on an unmarked Wagner in good condition. Had to pass on it due to the heat ring. We have a flat top at our place. Yeah, heat rings will work on a flat top. It's just that since it's not actually touching the surface, it takes longer to heat up, and the heat rebounds slower when you put your cold food in there to start frying it. So, but an unmarked Wagner with a heat ring, you probably could turn around and resold it for a good bit more than the 10 bucks. Let's see. You can always tell a Griswold by the box style number on the handle. Yeah, that's an easy way to spot them because they got that sort of squarish looking number on the handles usually. Cynthia Wesley, well, you're still in time for the drawing, so you might get lucky and win yourself a kettle. Buying me a Grateful Dead album. You know my opinion of the Grateful Dead, Jake. Don't overlook gate mark pans. They're awesome. Yeah, they're usually nice and thin. They cook great. And, they can be kind of tough to find, and they can be kind of expensive. There's a fair bit of demand for them. But they're pretty handy to have. What's the oldest piece I have, and do you use it? Yeah, I have an old Jewett and Root kettle, pretty similar to this one. That's from somewhere between 1845 and 1860. And I have a waffle iron from the 1860s, I think that one is. And I use them. And it's a nice thing about old cast iron is you can actually use it. Found eBay auctions are a good place to buy for the newer companies. Picked up a Blacklock for 50 bucks in the box. That's pretty good. Let's see. I can't pass on anything. Yeah, it's tough to pass up cast iron unless it's something you already have, 8 or 9 of them. Then it's a bit easier. What value would you place on a number 4 small block Griswold? Number 4s are tough. The large logos, go for anywhere from 125 up to 200. I've seen them sell for. The small blocks, not so much, but they're still going to be expensive. I mean, they're going to be $100 on up usually. All right, the Holy Grail pan is the Steal Your Face Lodge. Okay. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to do the drawing now. Let's see, share screen, select that one. Okay, we'll allow that. And I will embiggen that a little bit and get my cursor down here, and we'll hit the button. Never in your 57 years won anything. More than likely won't. Just happy to be at the party. Well, good luck. Maybe you will win this time around. I'll start collecting in the comments. Entries 36. And hit the draw button. And here we go. Click, click, clickety, clickety, clickety. Cynthia Wesley. Go on. This here fabulous kettle. Send me a email on get myself back here. Congratulations, Cynthia. Destroyed your 57-year losing streak. You won the kettle. Email me at themudbrooker@yahoo.com with a shipping address, and I'll get this packed up and shipped out to you as soon as I can. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, because that is a really nice kettle. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Even just to have it, even if you never use it. They work real great for storing your kitchen utensils. I got one over there full of spatulas and whatnot. And you can make yourself a hell of a nice thing of soup in them. But congratulations, Cynthia. You are the winner of my 40,000 subscriber giveaway. And like I said, go ahead and email me at themudbrooker@yahoo.com. We'll get that sent out as soon as I possibly can. All right. Now, seems I've been at this for an hour and I've given away the kettle, I'm ready to go. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for all the subscriptions and memberships. And it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully we can keep on growing my channel a little bit here. I don't really hype myself up too much, and it's been nice just to slowly grow and continue on, and hopefully I'll be able to keep on bringing you cool cast iron stuff in the future, and hopefully you'll keep enjoying it as much as I do bringing it to you. You're ignorant to emailing. Well, keep on trying. You can get me at the email, or you can leave comments on my channel usually. So we'll get hold of you somehow or other, and we'll get this all set out. I can stop sharing that. I'll see you guys the week after next. Not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. I should be able to have a show. If something comes up in the meantime, I'll definitely let you know one way or another. Lord, social media ignorant. Well, it's just basic email. It's not social media. If you are on Facebook, I'm Mudbrooker on Facebook. You can send me a private message there too. So one way or another, we will get a mailing address, and I'll get that shipped out to you. Night, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here for all these years, and I'll see you guys the week after next.